Hey guys, it's Maddie or Books with Maddie. Today I'm going to be going through my April wrap up, so all of the things that I read in April as well as my May reading plan, so what I'm hoping to read in May. I hope you enjoy! So I'm going to start with the things that I read in April. I read 6 books in April. The first book that I completed in April, I believe I actually started it in March, but it was Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I don't have the actual hard copy. I read this one as an ebook, and I read it for me and my friend Morgan, who also has a booktube channel. I'll link it in the description. I read it for our book club that we have, where we go back and forth and pick a book. So like it was her turn to pick a book. She picked Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I'd never read anything by Marissa Meyer before, so this is my like total introduction to her. I'm really interested in reading the Cinder. Is that what it's called? Cinder? Yes, Cinder. The Lunar Chronicles, that's what they're called. I'm really interested in reading those. Heartless, I gave 3 stars. I thought it was good. It was really interesting. It wasn't like my personal taste, which is I think why I gave it a little bit of a lower rating. But it was like overall pretty enjoyable. I don't think it's like a super memorable book, but like at the same time, it was like a really interesting concept. It basically told the story of the Queen of Hearts, or the Red Queen, in like the Alice in Wonderland series, but it told her story before Alice ever even got to Wonderland, so how she turned into the Red Queen. And it was like super interesting to like see that, like how she became this kind of evil dictator type person. Evil monarch, that's the word I'm looking for. Kind of see the story behind that. I've never been super interested in Alice in Wonderland. I've never read Alice in Wonderland, I don't think. But it was still really, I've seen the movies, so I obviously knew like the general storyline. So it was interesting to see that. It was really fun to read it with her because we made like a bunch of theories about how we thought the book was gonna end. It definitely took like more twists and turns than I thought it would, which was super cool. So yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend if you're at all interested in the Alice in Wonderland storyline, I definitely recommend reading that book. Okay, the next book that I read was the Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone. I know like everybody's reading this, so I won't go for like a synopsis or anything. I am participating in the Bookstagram readathon started by Amy's Bookshelf, I think her name is. I'll put more information about it in the description below and like have her name here so you can go and check it out. I'm like super behind on it though now. Like I'm supposed to be done with the second book. I haven't started it. I reread the first book though along with everybody else, and I loved it just as much as I think I loved it probably more than when I read it for the first time, because I did have that like extra, you know, boost of nostalgia, so that made it more enjoyable because I could remember reading it for the first time and everything, like, you know, being in middle school, that ordeal. It was just really fun to read, and it's such a cute book, and I just forget how much I love it every time I put it down. I'm like, yeah, it was like Harry Potter, and then I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally the best piece of work that's ever been written. If you have not read the Harry Potter series yet, I'm pretty sure everybody has, but if you haven't, you really, really should. It's so, like, it's just so cute. Especially, like, I feel like a lot of people think they can't read it as they get older, but I think that's, like, the optimal time to read it. It's such an, like, an escapist novel. Like, you can just get so sucked into the world so easily, and that's by far my favorite part of it. The last book that I read like, for my own personal reading, the rest are, like, school books, was The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. This was the book that I chose for Morgan and I's book club. So after you had Heartless, then I got to choose, and I chose The Hunger Games because she had actually never read it. We read The Hunger Games. It was a reread for me, and I think I'm gonna come out with a reading vlog for rereading it and rereading the whole series, and then the new book coming out. I wanted to reread it before the new book came out. I was obsessed with the series when I first read it as like a child, which why I read a series about people killing each other as a child is beyond me. But I read it and I had like this whole wall, like there's more wall over there, but this whole wall was like all dedicated to Hunger Games. I loved it so much. I had posters and trading cards and the pin and everything. It's so funny. And so I was like very hesitant to reread it because I loved it so much when I first read it that I was like, what if I don't love it as much the second time? But I did. It was perfect. I loved it. I love Katniss so much. My friend Morgan, who I've been talking about, she loves Peeta more than anything, but I forget how good of a character Katniss is. She was the first like strong female lead that I was introduced to as a child, and she was so inspirational for me because I grew up kind of watching things like Star Wars and Indiana Jones and things like that my brother and my dad really liked. So seeing a really strong female lead, it changed a lot for me. That's one of the reasons I really love Hunger Games. I watched the movie. It was the movie. It is what it is. And we just pretend it doesn't exist. At least for me. I just go on living my life pretending that there was no Hunger Games movie. There was no Hunger Games movie according to me. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I have started Catching Fire, and I'm loving that as well. I cannot wait for the new book. I'm super nervous and super excited at the same time. So hopefully when it comes out, I will not be on Instagram. I will not be on YouTube. I will be reading that book. I don't want to see anybody's thoughts or feelings about it before I read it. I'm so dedicated to having a completely non-biased opinion about it. Anyway, the next 3 books that I'm going to talk about, I'll go through really fast because they are all books that I read for school. The first one was a book that I started a couple months ago, Good Morning Midnight by Rhys, and I talked about this book a little bit in my quarterly check-in wrap-up video. And it basically follows a character named Sasha. She has returned to Paris after being in London. She is kind of haunted by her past, and she has these really terrible nightmares where her nightmares start to come into reality, and she's being her waking life is being affected by these nightmares, and it's her journey of finding her way in a world that seems to not cater towards a middle-aged woman in Paris. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. It's one of my favorite books that I've ever read in school. I think it's my second favorite that I've read this semester, and I really loved it. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit hard to get into, but it has some really, really important messages, and I would highly recommend it if you're ever looking for a good classic. The next book I'm going to talk about is, I keep forgetting to bring them out before I talk about them, The Bluest by Toni Morrison. I'm sure a lot of you have read from Toni Morrison before. If you haven't, you absolutely have to. She is a Nobel Prize winning author. Is that what it's called? Nobel Prize winner. She's a Nobel Prize winner. This book follows a character named Piccola. She's a young black girl, and she is praying for beauty. So she's praying for blue eyes because that's what she's been told equates to beauty. And she thinks she's ugly. People tell her that she's ugly. And it kind of goes through her psychological annihilation being in this extremely racist community and setting. Her home life isn't good. She doesn't have friends. She's just completely alone in this world where she feels she is continually being attacked for things that are out of her control. Being a young black girl in this setting, in this day and age, is not at all, healthy. And there's nothing she can do about it. And it was one of the most moving novels. I gave it 5 stars. It gives you this insider's view into a world in which, for somebody who does not fit the same characteristics as the characters in this book, or is not in the same community, or has a different life, you're never going to get the same perspective. And the thing about this book is it's so real. It is so raw and real, and it is a very difficult read to get through, but is incredibly important and incredibly relevant, not only to when it was written, but to now. It is still relevant. We should continue reading this book. We should continue studying it and studying other books like it, and reading more from authors like Toni Morrison. She worked in publishing for a while, and she really tried to get more diverse authors into the world, into the community. And so it's such a powerful book, such a powerful story. Toni Morrison's story is incredibly impactful. And I can do a video more about classics and the book that I've read this semester. If you'd like me to, I could talk more about Toni Morrison, more about my thoughts of the book. If that's what anybody wants, let me know. The last book that I read was The Stranger by Camus. I read this for my literary interpretation class. I gave this book 2 stars. I'm sure some of you have read it. A lot of people read it in high school. I did not read it in high school, but I didn't like it at all. And it's not because of the writing or the structure. It is because of the message of the book, which is basically, why does it matter what we do if we're all gonna die? We all have the same fate. So why does it matter what we do while we live? And I fundamentally disagree with that. I wrote a very extensive review about this book on Goodreads. I'm not going to go into all my opinions because people who haven't read it aren't going to know what I'm talking about. In defense of the book, there are definitely good things which you can take from it. There's a lot of messages about carving your own path in the world, not following the beaten trail thing. There's good things you can get out of this book, but the fundamental existentialist, absurdist message of this book, I don't think is good. I don't think it's a good message that it sends. And so I didn't like it at all. And if anybody wants to discuss it, honestly, I'm totally open to having a discussion. I'm totally open to see other people's sides of the argument, because my teacher really likes the book, and I have to write a paper about it. And I don't think he's going to give me a good grade if I disagree with him. That's just how he works. That's how college works, people. And so if you'd like to try to convince me that this book is amazing, please, please, I would love to be on your side. Okay, really quickly, I'm going to now go through the books that I would like to read in May. Now, my semester is ending in May. So I'm planning on reading a lot more of like things that I want to read that aren't for school. And I'm hoping that'll happen. So I've already started some books. I'm gonna grab those. Okay, so I've started 3 books already this month. 2 of them for school. The first book that I've started for school is the Meursault investigation. This is a kind of reaction to The Stranger. So our paper for my literary interpretation class is commenting on both the Meursault investigation and The Stranger. If you've read The Stranger, then this book follows the brother of the man that Meursault killed. It's very interesting. It's a little boring, not gonna lie, but yeah, it's good. The next book that I'm reading is the last book for my women in literature class. It is White Teeth by Zadie Smith. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this. It's a pretty recently published novel, I think within the century. It is hugely like critically acclaimed. This book follows like a group of friends who are also family. So like 2 families who are friends with each other. So one of the families is Muslim and the other is a mixed family. So the mother is from Jamaica and the father is white. And it follows not only the parents but also the children of the parents. It takes place in London. So very white community of people. And it takes place in the mid to late 1900s. It kind of spans over a long time period. And it talks about a lot about colonialism, racism, sexism, class. It's really good. It's long. And I think I would enjoy this more if I had a longer time period to read it, just because it does require a lot of like digestion. It's packed with information and things happening. I've had to read about like 75 pages a day, which is like a lot, especially because the text is just microscopic. And I'm enjoying it. There's some parts that are a little bit dry. I think it's really hard when you have to read like a huge chunk of this at once, especially it's the end of the semester, it's quarantine, I'm not motivated. So I don't think it's the right circumstances for me to read this novel. I think maybe later in my life if I read it when I have a longer period of time to understand it and think about it, then I might enjoy it more. Right now it's like at a 3-star for me, but obviously I'm not quite finished. I have a little bit more to read, but I don't think I'm reading it at the right point in my life. The next book which I've started is Catching Fire. I talked a little about this earlier, so I won't go back too much into it, but I started it. I'm 30 pages in because as you can see, I'm reading an abundance of other things for school and writing papers on papers on papers for school. This is my last week. And then I have exams, and then I'm done. And then it's time for nostalgia. I'll hopefully finish this before the semester's over. I'm enjoying it a lot, even though I'm only 30 pages in. I'm super ready to get into it, and I don't remember anything that happened in it, so it's like reading it for the first time. Next book that is on my TBR for May is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. As you might remember, if you watched Book Wrap Up, I started this book, and I got like 40 pages into it, and then I stopped, and I don't know why. I was supposed to be buddy reading it, and neither of us could really get into it. I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to enjoy it. I love historical fiction. I think it's like very much a sad, heart-wrenching book, and so I don't know if that's what I needed when I was reading it when quarantine began and school was just a lot. So hopefully when school ends, I will get into it, I will love it, I will enjoy it, and that's my plan. Okay, I have 2 more. The next one I'm going to talk about really quickly, which I keep saying, but it's The Book Thief, and everybody knows The Book Thief. I'm not going to explain the synopsis. If you don't know The Book Thief, it's historical fiction about World War II, it's amazing. I don't actually know too much what it's about. I think I've seen the movie maybe, but I couldn't tell you anything except I think there's a train at some point in the book. At the end? Was there a train at the end? I don't remember. I remember a movie that was about World War II, and there was like a train, and I remember crying, but I don't remember if it was this book of this movie or a different one. This is Morgan's pick for our, so we read The Hunger Games, and now it's her turn to pick, so she picked The Book Thief. I'm really excited to read it. I've heard only incredible things about it. I think most people on BookTube is one of their favorite books of all time, and so I'm so excited to get into it. I have a feeling I'm gonna cry. I cry a lot when I read, so I think this is gonna make me cry, and I'm fine with that because this is one of those things that, like, yeah, you gotta read this. Okay, the book that I chose, so we're actually supposed to be reading this right now, but we're waiting until school is over. So I picked the next read after that because whilst we're reading the current book that we're reading, which should be The Book Thief, the next person picks so that we have time for the book to come in, especially during quarantine. So I've already picked the book. I've already received it because I ordered it from Amazon. And it is Normal People by Sally Rooney. This book came out in 2018, so it's fairly recent. I don't know anything about it, except I'm pretty sure it's a romance. I've heard it's like one of the 10 best books of the year, century? I don't know. It's won a lot of awards. There's a TV show on Netflix that I didn't know about until the other day. I was like, I just got that book. And that's cool. So I'm excited. When I pick a book, like when it's my turn to pick a book for our book club, I have like a random list sorter picker chooser thing. So it's like a list and then it is a chooser. So it randomly chooses one and I just put a bunch of genres in there and then it chose. And it chose romance, and this one was classified as romance, and I wanted to read it. And so I picked it, and so I bought it. That's a good story. I mean, if you want a synopsis, it's about two people who fall in love. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what it's about. Okay. Those are all the books that I want to read in May. Will I read all of them? Maybe. I mean, I think there's a good chance, because 2 of them are for school. 1 of them I've already started. I don't know if I'm going to finish The Nightingale. That's the only one I'm worried about. Normal People is short. The Book Thief is the next one in our book club. I have high hopes. Cut to a month from now, me on the floor crying because I read no books. I hope you enjoyed this video. I apologize that I'm so all over the place. Yeah. All of the books that I talked about will be linked below, and as well as my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, my email. I don't know. You should send me an email. Somebody should email me. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe. Comment below what you are planning on reading this month and what your favorite book that you read last month was. And I will see you next week. I don't know what I read in April. So that I, do I have something in my hair? Oh my god, there was a spider in my hair. She really, I'm gonna get it before I talk about it. And, one of them is one of them are, look at my face, it's gone. There we go. My face is gone again. Come back. Wait, is this good? Okay. Heart is like one of the, my face is gone again. That's a great description. I'm losing it. You might recognize this by the cover. This is like an alternative cover that is not the normal. It usually is like black and white and it has like shinks on it. So like, that's a description. It's like, there's like stripes, but it's not like stripes. It's like that. So that's a description. And I dropped the book. This is all happening. Oh, it's so hard to explain what I'm trying to say. It's getting heavy. It's been heavy the whole time. I don't know what I'm saying. Gosh. Oh my gosh.